Welcome to Minnesota Homeownership Center's Welcome Home podcast. My name is Bill Gray, and today we're going to take a look at the 2023 State of Housing in Black America report published by the National Association of Real Estate Brokers. I'm joined today by two active members of NAREB's Twin Cities chapter for this conversation. Tiffany Phillips is a Community Development Loan Officer at Bell Bank here in the Twin Cities. Welcome, Tiffany.
Thank you. Happy to be here.
And Denise Mazone is a local real estate broker and owner of Mazone Realty Group. Welcome, Denise.
Thank you.
Thanks to both of you for coming on the show. So, as you guys know, NAREB puts this report out every year, and it's a good way to track the effectiveness of efforts across the country to reduce the racial homeownership gap. And why is this work important? Because homeownership is the number one way that households in the United States build wealth. The homeownership gap is a major factor in our collective wealth gap, in which white households have a median net worth of about $250,000. While black households come in at just under $24,000. So, all right. Here's the first thing that jumped out to me in this year's report, you guys. During the pandemic, Black-owned home values increased faster than home values for all other racial and ethnic groups. Now, I want to be clear, this is national data, so I'm going to look to you guys to tell me if that's true for here in Minnesota. They based that figure on data from Zillow, which cited the increase in Black-owned home values at about 5% higher than that for all other ethnic groups. So, this is good news. Is it true here in Minnesota? What does this mean? I'll let you guys decide who wants to take this question. By the way, I should say to viewers, Denise is wearing her sunglasses today because she had some eye surgery, and I promised to mention that, and I forgot. So anyways, the question is, what does this mean for us in Minnesota?
Well, let me just start by saying that this is the Sheba report.
Mm-hmm.
So, and it's a national report. It's not a local report. And I find it not to be true for in our 7-county area. This simply cannot be true. And Tiffany and I spoke just recently about this, and we were talking about how if the value went up 5%, that's probably driven from taxation, if anything, right?
The other thing we thought about is historically our values have been much less than other home ethnic groups. So I think the goal is to increase us, to try and get us more level set with the other, but then still it's not enough to totally increase that. But overall, when we think about what it means, if your value increased, any increase is great, right? Because equity in your home is automatically translated to your net worth. So then you get to do things. Maybe you have a child you want to put through school. You want to start a business. So it helps in that vein if you want to do something with your equity and, again, add to your net worth. But on the flip side, to Denise's point, if your home is worth more, then the county that you live in is going to tax you more on that home. So it's almost going to make that home be less affordable for you to own long term, because your monthly payment is going to increase once the taxes
because your taxes are in that monthly payment.
Correct.
So then let me ask you this question. When we look at home value appreciation, would you say that there is more or less appreciation occurring on the lower end of the price spectrum than on the higher end? Or do we just not have the data for that? I'm just trying to figure out, what's growing the fastest. Is it still the houses out here, or is it maybe,
For sure. We don't have the exact data for it, but I would say the homes on the higher end are going to appreciate faster just because market determines value. And then if more people are interested in that home shopping in that price range, then it's going to increase, faster. On the flip side, I think a lot of people have some great appreciation happening. One, after the Great Recession, I purchased my home in the late 2011-ish, and my home's value has increased like 3 times since. Wow. And I purchased it at a lower price point as well. But I would say someone who purchased a higher price home in that same time frame, value has increased even more than that. But I've also seen an increase in my property taxes because of that. But
not 3 times.
Not 3 times, exactly. Not not 3 times as much. What would you add to that?
Yeah, so I
Denise?
can add. So the luxury sales shrank 8%, but remained near record high. It was up 19.3% in October, but then too, you don't have the volume either.
Okay.
Although, those are the stats for those are 2023 numbers compared to 2022 numbers.
So if we talk about this is just interesting for me for the real world market,
Yeah.
you guys. If we talk about competition for the houses that are out there, Denise, would you say the competition is more fierce at the entry level or at that higher level?
At the entry level, for sure, at the lower level. And our biggest competition is investors. And this is for because they're just coming in, gobbling up a lot of these houses that are 250 and under, and that's where a lot of the first-time homebuyers that I deal with.
Right.
That's the area that they're looking in. So when they do that, then they turn around, and they're just investors, so they just rent them all out for the $2,500 a month or whatever. But so our biggest the one buyer to the next is not that big of a deal, but an individual at least, but it's a corporate buyer that's coming in.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I would echo that it is more competitive in that lower price point because more people can afford in that lower price point.
Yes.
With interest rates where they are
Right.
and home prices increasing, it's just harder to afford the payment that comes with that
Right.
$400,000 house.
Right. And how are interest rates these days?
They've been coming down the past month or two, I would say. I just was looking through my pipeline and I had a person that I pre-approved in like October-ish, and most of my clients use down payment assistance through Minnesota Housing, so I was paying attention to that rate. But they were close to 8% then at 7.875. And then when I was looking to price that same loan this week, it was 6.875. And I think yesterday it even went down to 6.75. So there's been a reduction.
And that makes a huge difference in that monthly payment, right?
Oh yeah, you definitely get to afford more as your rates come down, and it's actually so those who purchased, several 6, 8, 10 months ago, they may want to take advantage or look into a refinance to get that rate and take advantage of that lower interest rate because they have started to come down.
Okay.
So can I just add? I was talking to a loan officer today, and she said that the rates went up just a tad bit, not much, but today.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah, it's kind of like watching the stock market, right?
That's it.
Correct. It's always
exactly
flowing.
right.
All right. Well, so we kind of talked about the fact that maybe that national stat for home values rising by ethnic group may not necessarily translate to Minnesota, which is fine. But another stat that I saw in this report is that let's see, owner-occupied homes in predominantly Black neighborhoods are valued about 20% below similar homes in non-Black neighborhoods. Now we know this, but what should we make of this, and what's the outlook for this?
Can I just say what constitutes a Black neighborhood?
Good question.
Where would you say what's a Black neighborhood right now? Would you say North Minneapolis, South Minneapolis, Rondo over in St. Paul? What would constitute a Black neighborhood right now? We have so much gentrification going on that I can't even imagine how we can say something's a Black neighborhood.
Interesting.
But I can say that in the inner city itself, their single family houses, they were down 20%. The sale of them. So I don't understand.
Yeah.
And so these stats once again are national, but Minnesota being number one in the disparity gap.
True.
It's hard to quantify those stats from the Sheba report and how they actually reflect in our city.
Yeah. And
when I thought about that question, I was thinking about how historically when we go back to 40s, 50s, when Black people were having a hard time purchasing homes, when the government was classifying neighborhoods, right? And neighborhoods that had more Black people in them were classified as less desirable neighborhoods. And so we were then pushed to those neighborhoods, those homes, because they were less desirable, they cost less, right? So now that's where a lot of us are, what happened in North, right? So North became an area that was predominantly Black because we were pushed there because the homes were classified in that way. So now, since a lot of us are there, those homes just have historically kept that lower value. But I would say it's part of redlining and us being pushed to those areas, and they are just less desirable. So the market isn't going to demand the same cost for it.
Okay. And that's kind of baked into the system at this point, right?
It is. And I mean, there's been documentaries, in, what was it, the North, the Jim Crow of the North, is a huge documentary that talks about how people were put into certain areas, not allowed to buy, in other areas, and all those things impact, value.
So this is a documentary from TPT here in the Twin Cities. If you haven't seen it, it is really a fascinating look at the history of real estate in Minnesota, and it certainly isn't something that just happened here. This was nationwide and by government policy. All right, let's see. What else do I want to talk about? Here is a quote straight from the report, and I thought it was spot on, of course. It says, gaining access to homeownership is one of the most direct and immediate ways to step out of the revolving door of generational economic stagnation. And of course, that's what we preach as well. But the report also notes that prospective homebuyers needed, and this is national again, so you guys direct me on what it is locally, but nationally, they needed an annual salary of nearly $100K to afford the monthly payments on the median priced home in 2023. That's up from just $53K in 2020. That's huge. That means, the report finds, nationally again, that less than 10% of Black renters can currently afford to buy the median price home. That sounds pretty discouraging. Tiffany, Denise, what does this really mean for an individual looking to buy their first home? Is it really that, excuse me, is it really that difficult or daunting in your experience? Or is it more kind of a one-on-one thing?
Oh, it's a one-on-one. But so our median rates are, our median is $368,000. Tiffany, how much would a person have to make to afford a $368,000 home?
I'm going to think that payment is probably going to be around $2,800, somewhere around there, depending on
with today's interest
rates, depending on what type of assistance that you get, but around $2,800. And let's say you have no other debts, no car payment, no student loan payment, no credit cards.
Which pretty much describes everyone.
Right. Everyone have those debts. So if you want to afford this payment of $2,800, you need to at least, your gross needs to at least be about double that, right? So we need to see you're making about $5,600 a month to afford a $2,800 payment, and that's half of your income. But if you have some other debt, then you're not going to be able to afford that $2,800
and that's half of your income. You're not supposed to go over 30% of your burden.
Your housing payment, but we're looking at all of your debt, right?
Okay.
So an affordable full debt ratio is about 45%. We don't want you going over about 45%, but we will allow you to go to 50%, some programs even 57%. But the interest rates really make that difference. When you look at, in 2020, someone needed to make $53,000 to afford that home, and now in 2023, they need almost double that, $100,000. It's because interest rates have more than tripled, right? So some people were getting interest rates in the 2.5% around that time. I think I refinanced to 2.625.
Wow.
At that time, and now rates are close to 7%.
Yeah.
So that interest is going to make a huge difference, and that's why that payment is higher. When you look at, most people have debt. The average person, especially the average Black person, that tend to have more student loan debt because they didn't have money passed down, to cover, help them cover that. So we just tend to carry more debt, making that even less of a possibility. And which is why it's important that we take advantage of the programs. And it's great that we have a state that put such a huge investment in affordable housing, thinking about the 150 million that's about to come on, because more people will need that to afford home ownership, and they still won't be able to, most people won't be able to afford a $360,000 house. We may still need to bring that purchase price down to $250,000 or so to make that affordable.
But those houses are out there, and here's what I want to do for as our last kind of topic here. People should not be discouraged. Some of this sounds pretty discouraging, but what it comes down to is the right realtor to work with, the right loan officer that knows how these programs work. We've got $150 million in down payment assistance for first generation households coming this spring. So that's right around the corner. To me, all of that is really encouraging. You guys are on the front lines and will be as the 2024 housing season takes off. How do you see this playing out, and how do you think you're going to be able to be successful or not in helping people to find what they need?
So, myself, I've been telling people, be careful about what you're talking about. Know the products, right? Because the one product for the first gen product, you have to have your own 3.5% down of your FHA.
Okay.
So you have to, or maybe you can layer that.
So this is the difference between the two programs. One is
There's
through
two.
Minnesota Housing and can be paired with it's the only one that can be paired with their mortgage products, and the other one is more of a community-wide thing. They both have different rules. You can find information on this, by the way, at First Gen DPA, FIRSTGENDPA.org. And anyway, so let's continue that.
Because I keep seeing things come out on the Facebook and different things. I'm like, oh, that's not true, But anyways, so and also you need to pair up and make sure like you are pairing up with a seasoned realtor and a seasoned loan officer that work in this space, because we work through nonprofits,
right?
Whereas some people do not,
right?
And then they come to me when it's too late,
right?
It's just way too late. So, and I sat on a panel with the McKnight Foundation. They've said they're going to do $1 billion in 10 years, and it comes in 4 different sectors, right? And one of the sectors is down payment assistance as well.
Oh.
Also, McKnight Foundation, they've committed. Polad Foundation has committed $10 million. And so. There's so many people that are so rooted in the cause here, so which is so nice. But you have to talk to people that know what's going on, and you have to trust the process. I always tell people that I work with, just trust the process. If your loan officer tells you to do this, make sure it gets done. And time is of the essence. And if you trust the process, you will, you'll be a homeowner.
I'm really excited about 2024 and beyond. I'm excited that so many entities have made the investment in homeownership for first gen and for people of color, because we need it. When we think about homeownership rates in Minnesota, we have the largest gap. Only about 25% of Black Minnesotans own homes. And when we think about how that then correlates to net worth, I want to say homeowners have a net worth of 40 times that of a renter.
I think you're right.
So when we think about numbers, a homeowner may have a net worth of $320,000, whereas the renter has a net worth of about $8,000. And then you pull Black renters out and it's zero.
Yeah.
So when we know the impact of homeownership in wealth building, right, it makes it all the more critical. And for me, it's all about information and making sure people know what's out there for them. The total of 150 million, yes, there are a lot of caveats to them. There's rules. We have to make sure you fall within those rules, but that money is there to help kind of level the playing field. I was on a conference call yesterday with the Homeownership Center talking about another pocket of money for advancing Black homeownership. And that's going to be about $45,000. They're looking to gather more money to help more families in 2025. But my message to people is get ready.
Right.
Like, get ready now. Go to homebuyer education classes.
Yep.
Denise's point, we work with nonprofits.
Our advisors,
right? So the homeownership advisors have, they offer classes. A lot of them are free right now. They're being sponsored by other entities. So at no cost, you can go take advantage of this information, become an educated homebuyer so you understand the process. And then you'll find out more about these programs from the homeownership advisors there.
Right.
Can share that with you. So I just want people to know that it's possible for them. So some of these numbers are daunting when you think about 20% less evaluation for us when you think
Right.
about other groups, but it's still the number one way to,
Right.
accumulate wealth and have something to leave for your kids. So I just want
Right.
everyone to
And-
do it.
Can I just say too?
yes?
And the nice thing about it, NAREB, which we're a part of, Tiffany and I are a part of, NAREB sponsors PPL,
Yep.
PRG, and also Model Cities.
Yes.
So you can go over there and take these classes, for free, basically.
Mhm.
They do have to, it's a minimal fee to run your a soft credit pull, but other than that, it's a great start.
Yep. So those are the 8-hour classes that our network of homeowner educators and advisors offer, and it is the starting point to try to figure all this out. And I'm sure what we're saying sounds confusing and intimidating. Our advisors lay it all out for you and basically build you a roadmap and then help you drive there. And here's the thing: when we're talking about our homeownership gap in this state and in this country, and we're talking about these unequal benefits of wealth building from homeownership because there's such a gap, right? What we're trying to do with these programs is get people into homeownership so that everyone can participate in that wealth building. And here's the thing: there so many of these households that are stuck and can't get over that down payment hurdle and can't get homeownership for themselves could do so, but for lack of that down payment hurdle. That's what down payment assistance is about. They're already paying just as much as they would pay for a mortgage, and it's just an effort to try to make the system work, for everybody. So good. I think that's it for this episode. If you are interested in exploring home ownership for your own household, you can take a home buying class and enlist the help of a home ownership advisor for free by going to our website, hocmn.org. And let me say something about these coming down payment assistance programs for first generation. For most down payment assistance programs, this class is going to be a requirement as part of that.
Yes.
So know that you can get ready now so that you can be ready when the details about this program come out in April or whenever they're going to come out. Our advisors and educators are embedded in orgs across the state like PRG, PPL, Model Cities, lots more, and they'll work with you to help get you mortgage ready, educate you on the buying process, and walk you through every step. I want to thank our guests today. Thank you, Tiffany and Denise. Thank you so much for coming on the show.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah, thanks for this opportunity.
In closing, I want to acknowledge our sponsors: Associated Bank, Bell Bank, thank you, Tiffany, Bremer Bank, Huntington Bank, Midwest One Bank, and Old National Bank. Our sincere thanks to each of these organizations for their support. Thanks for watching and listening.